Welcome to Date Night. This is my second date night with Sportsman Channel. I'm Scott Leysath, host of the Sporting Chef and Dead Meat shows on Sportsman Channel. By the way, if you're thinking, I don't get Sportsman Channel, I want you to check out My Outdoor TV, MOTV. There is so much content there, and right now, for a 30-day free trial, if you use Sporting Chef, and I do it all in caps, do Sporting Chef as your promo code, you get 30 days free to check it out and see if you like it or not. MOTV.com. I'm going to make a fish chowder. So during these times when going to the store can be a challenge, even when you go to the store, they may not have exactly what you're looking for, chances are you've got stuff in your freezer. If you hunt and fish, we've got stuff in our refrigerators and freezers. I'm going to make a Manhattan-style fish chowder. New England is the white one, Manhattan's the red one. It's kind of tomatoey. The reason I'm making that is because I don't have any milk, I don't have any cream, and I didn't want to use powdered milk or evaporated milk to make a chowder. I just thought it'd be better off if we go with what we have in stock, which is tomatoes. So we're going to do it in an Instant Pot. Now this particular Instant Pot, I haven't quite figured out yet. It either says food or burn. So we're going to try and not burn it. And you've probably run into the same thing with your Instant Pot at home. What I want to do first is to brown some stuff. Now, if you go to sportingchef.com, the recipe there for the fast fish chowder or whatever it's called starts with bacon and bacon grease. Well, I didn't have any bacon either, but I did have some linguiça sausage. This is a Portuguese sausage, lots of flavor. That's going to be the base for this particular version of Manhattan fish chowder. And what's going to happen is this linguiça, the grease in the linguiça, all the fat in there is going to release its linguiça-like flavor. All right, so now that I've got my, I had a perfectly good Instant Pot, but it had a couple of dents in it, kind of like this one does now too, so I gave it to my son. And so I'm still trying to figure out, this is a bigger unit. I think they all work about the same, but I've got a little grease in there now, so I'm going to start with sweating my onions and celery and carrots. And since I'm going to keep my eye on it, I'm going to put some garlic in now. If you didn't have any fresh garlic when this whole mess started, you may not have any now. You can use the jarred garlic. As a general rule, when I'm cooking, I don't like to use the stuff in the jar. It doesn't seem to have quite the flavor. You have to use a whole lot more. So if you're using the stuff in the jar, double the amount that the recipe says to use. In a pinch, you can always use garlic powder. If you don't like garlic, don't put any garlic in there. But I'm going to just sweat this. I'm going to keep stirring it, and it's going to take about 5 minutes. So I know that the next step is ready when those onions are translucent. I don't want to brown them. I want them to be translucent. So, as with any date night, now is as good a time as any to pour myself a little glass. I've got a Michael David Chardonnay, Lodi, California. Stick around, I'm gonna just watch this sweat. Over here, my onions, celery, carrot, linguiça is sufficiently sweated. At some point, I may figure out how to work this Instant Pot a little bit better. I'm gonna add the potatoes now. The potato is also gonna be a thickener. But the reason I didn't add the potatoes first is I wanted to give the other ones a head start. I don't want my potatoes to disintegrate. And I also haven't seasoned it at all yet. So what I'm using is the High Mountain Italian herb seasoning. This is my favorite High Mountain fish rub. This is a High Mountain salmon rub, which is kind of lemony and citrusy. And I'll give that a stir. And I think what would probably be good is if I put a little of this Michael David Chardonnay in there. And if you don't want to cook with alcohol, that's okay. But what I'm doing here, this is going to deglaze the pan, whatever's stuck to the bottom of it. It's going to add flavor. And by the time this whole thing's done, there's no alcohol in there. All right, next. Diced tomatoes. This is just diced tomatoes out of the can. Looks just like this. Diced tomatoes. Let's say all you had was salsa. try it with salsa. You can call it your Mazatlan fish seafood chowder, whatever it is. All right, let me give that a stir. I'm also going to add, I had a can of clams that has been in there for a while, but it's been in the pantry for a while. And I'm going to take all the juice that's in there too, because I don't have any fish stock in here. And so I've got clams and clam juice. Now, if you want to speed up the process, you can put the lid on this thing, get some pressure cooking going. It's really not going to take very long. From here until the next step, it's going to be around 10 minutes. Again, another time to snuggle up to your date and have a glass of Michael David Chardonnay. All right, so while you guys were getting a glass of wine and I was drinking some more wine, I figured out how this particular Instapot works. I've been letting the steam out. It cooked for about 12 minutes once it heated up, which is plenty because there's really nothing in here that needs to cook all that long. And I want to make sure that the potatoes don't turn to mush. So if the potatoes turn to mush, I'm going to pretend like I did that on purpose. So this just takes a second. You don't want to rush the whole Instapot thing and open it up prematurely because something bad could happen and you could have whatever's in there everywhere. When you get that fish out of the freezer, you know, you've got random pieces of fish for something like this. I don't care what kind of fish you use. I've got salmon and I've got some cod and I've got some shrimp. These are wild caught shrimp. This salmon looks a little pale, so I'm guessing this was store-bought shrimp. But you'll put fish into a food saver unit and it's dry. But when you go to thaw it, you get a whole bunch of funky fish juices out of it. The first thing I want you to do before you do anything with your fish, once you thaw it, get rid of all the funky fish juices that are in the bag that it thawed out in or in the container that it thawed out in. And that way when I add this fish, or whether I'm sauteing it or I'm adding it to a Manhattan chowder like this, I don't have to compete with all these funky fish juices coming out of it. The fish will absorb the flavor that I want it to. If you've got a saute pan and you're sauteing some halibut that you caught in Alaska, if you don't dry it out first, all that halibut juice is going to come out and it's going to compete with your white wine and your lemon juice and your butter and all that. So get it really, really, really dry. Keep it wrapped in paper towels like this. When the paper towels get wet, go ahead and rewrap it again. I want this fish to be dry, and I believe I can open this guy now. It looks and smells like chowder. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid to it. Let me see how these potatoes are. So the potatoes break open. They're just right. I didn't have any tomato juice. Recipe calls for tomato juice, but I did have some Bloody Mary mix. So Zing Zang happens to be a personal favorite if you're a Bloody Mary type of person. I used to make Bloody Mary's mix all the time. I'd send it with my wife on her ski trips, but I found that the Zing Zang is pretty darn close to what I want to do. So there's my substitute tomato juice. Now I'm going to add my fish. Again, I've got cod, I've got some salmon, and I've got some of these big wild caught shrimp. And the shrimp, definitely, I don't want them to overcook. Let me fire this guy up. And whenever I hit the meat and stew button, that's when it usually says burn, but don't be alarmed. All right, so just a little bit longer till the fish is cooked, the shrimp turns pink, and my Manhattan chowder is done. All right, a couple minutes later, everything here is done. Now, look, all we're trying to do here is give you some ideas on what to do with the stuff that you've got lying around the house. I want you to go ahead and look in the pantry, look in the freezer. Look at that. Let me put, this needs a big shrimp right on top, I think. The aroma here is really good. There's one of those shrimp, we'll put that on top. I happen to like a little hot sauce in mine. If you don't like yours hot and spicy, it's yours, so you do whatever you want. All right, this is just the start of your date night. You gotta have a little something to eat. But I wholeheartedly recommend that you finish whatever bottle of wine you started with, because the food will taste better and you might even like each other a little bit more, because we've all been in close quarters, those of us at home. I don't know what to say other than, honey, I still love you.